Have you ever received an email from Google Search Console saying there is a new reason preventing your pages from being indexed? In this video, I'm going to show you how to fix that. When you get an email from Google Search Console telling you that there's a new reason that prevents your pages from being indexed, it looks something like this, and typically there will be a reason that they specify here, sometimes more than one reason, and they're just letting you know, hey, there is a new reason that some of your pages aren't being indexed. For the most part, these emails are to serve as an FYI to bring your attention to it, just so that you can follow up and check and make sure that the reason a page is not showing up is intentional. First of all, don't panic. Usually it's just an FYI kind of message, and I'm going to show you what to do in this video and how to deal with different messages that you might get and which ones are ones to worry about and which ones are not really, and how you can handle the different situations. The message here is duplicate. Google chose different canonical than user. So when you click through, you're going to get taken to your Google Search Console page indexing report, which you can see here. And if you scroll down, it's going to give you in this overview here all the reasons why pages aren't indexed. So that email you just got is just telling you about the latest new reason. It doesn't mean that it's the only reason, but whenever a new reason pops up, they will send you an email. But it's good to check up on this stuff periodically just to make sure something isn't wrong. It's information that you can use to make sure everything is okay as far as the indexing of your site. So in this case, we're going to investigate the one that we just got a message for that says duplicate. Google chose a different canonical than user. So basically what the canonical URL is, the official URL of this page. Now, if you have a WordPress website, and also probably some other types of content management systems will have this issue where, depending on if the post or page has categories assigned to it, there are different URLs that can be used to arrive at the same page. And so Google needs to know, well, which one is the official one? And that's what's referred to as the canonical URL. A super common thing that happens on WordPress sites that has to do with this canonical is that you can reach posts by lots of different URLs, because if your URL structure contains the category and a post is assigned to multiple categories, then it is possible to get to the same page via maybe 5 different URLs. We're going to click through on this status and take a look. We can see it's affecting one page. So we want to get a look at the details about this. So we're going to click on the page and then click Inspect URL. And then on this page, we are going to scroll down and take a look at the user declared canonical. So that is the URL that our website is saying, hey, here's this page and this is the canonical. And then the Google selected canonical, you can see, is an analogous page, but on a different franchise's website. So in this particular case, we're dealing with a franchise website. So a lot of the sites have the same content, but they're in different markets across different parts of the United States. So because Google recognizes that it's the exact same content and have the content already indexed on another site, in Google's mind, it's saying, hey, this is close enough. It's the same information. So we don't really want that to happen, because if somebody is searching in the Treasure Coast market, which is down in Florida, and they click and Google decides to send them to a URL on the Kansas City website, that's not going to make sense, even if the content is identical. So in this case, I'm going to do this test live URL just to make sure there's not any issues that Google is flagging. And then once that's done, I'm going to tell Google, hey, can you index this one? This is the one that belongs on my site. And then we can see what happens. It usually will be a few days before you would get any kind of indication as to whether or not Google is going to re-index it. But that's what you would do in this particular case. So you always want to investigate what is the user canonical versus what Google selected, and it will tell you there on that page. So it depends on what the scenario that you encounter when you get to the details of the page. So you just have to evaluate the message that you're getting and see if you can determine, well, why is Google selecting that canonical over this one? And sometimes you may find it's a duplicate page you didn't know was on your site or something like that. So that's basically what you want to do when you get this particular message. You want to click through and get to the detail part that explains why Google has selected a different canonical, and then try to decode like what happened from there. Now let's talk about alternate page with proper canonical tag. It's similar to this duplicate. Google chose different canonical than user. And in here, you'll see a lot of different URLs where there's perhaps a category that's in there, a category name. A lot of times you'll see these things appended to the end, these query strings where you see a question mark and then some words or numbers or whatever. And actually, let me expand this so we can see them all at the same time. This URL just goes to the home page. And so Google's like, I'm not going to index this particular URL with all this stuff on the end of it because it goes to this main page, which is already indexed. So things like that you can just safely ignore. But it is a good idea to check here and just make sure there doesn't appear to be something that's really off. Now let's talk about server error 5XX. If you see that error, that's typically one you want to investigate and click on to make sure that there's not a problem with your server. So I have one here. I'm going to click through and look at it. In most cases, for at least in our experience on WordPress websites, sometimes see these XML RPC URLs are giving a server error. So if I click on that, you can see that we're getting a server error message. Now, I happen to know that's happening on this website because the website hosting is blocking access to that file. It's just a security measure. And so that error is what is being returned by the hosting, and they're blocking it, essentially saying, nope, you can't come here to this URL. I'm not really sure why sometimes Google tries to index these pages because they aren't typically pages that need to be in the Google index. But nonetheless, it's good to check if you have any of these pages coming up under server error, because sometimes there will be a legitimate server error that you may not have been aware of otherwise without getting a notification from Google Search Console saying, hey, there's a new reason that pages aren't being indexed and it's the server error. So you just have to, when you get to this page, look for anything that's out of the ordinary. If you have a WordPress site and you have something like this, the XML RPC URLs are giving a server error, that can be because the hosting is blocking it. I'm not worried about it because I don't want these to be indexed. They don't need to be indexed. But essentially, the report serves to alert you if you see a ton of server error pages, and when you click through and, oh, hey, that's a real page, it shouldn't be returning a server error. It could indicate something else going on with your hosting or something about the way the site is set up. And so typically it's something you need to follow up with your developer or your webmaster, or if you're the person who's doing it, you need to figure out why it's giving a server error if it's not supposed to be. Okay, now let's look at another common message that's received, and that is for a soft 404. So if we click through and go look at the report, it's going to take us to our page indexing report. And we're going to scroll down here and click on the soft 404 and just investigate what's going on. So a soft 404, for those of you that don't know, a 404 error is when somebody visits a page on your website and it is missing. It is not there. So that's what a regular 404 means. A soft 404 means Google is finding a page there, but they're saying there's not really anything on this page for us to index, so they just call it a soft 404. I always think that's a funny name, like they're trying to be nice about it. But if we go down here and we click through, and actually the first thing I'm going to do is click on this little, hover on this, open in a new tab, and look at the page and see what it is. All right, so What I'm looking at here is a page that basically has no content, which lines up with what a soft 404 typically is. It's usually a page that just doesn't really have anything to offer. And so Google's like, I'm not going to index that. It's not a 404 error because there is a page there, but it's essentially missing content, like has no content or very little content and nothing really valuable. So in this case, what this is telling me is, do I even need this page anymore? So I know that this was an old category that was offered back during the pandemic, and that virtual summer camps aren't a thing anymore in this particular case. So this is telling me, hey, I'm just going to get rid of this page. Now, in some cases, when you have a soft 404 and you check out the page and you see that it is a page that you truly want to be indexed by Google, but it's not, it's being marked as a soft 404, that is your opportunity to take that page and improve it. So here's an example of one where it is a category page for summer camps that lists, all the summer camps that are within a particular category, and it's being marked as a soft 404. By contrast, here's another same category, different franchises website where they're adding more context and providing a description and an overview of what the category is as a whole. There are some pictures added, and there's also, they're linking and describing other content on the site, which is helping to provide context to the user. So if you see a soft 404 and you realize, okay, this is something I really want to be indexed by Google, then you need to take some time to look at how you can improve the page to offer more valuable content for the user. All right, now let's investigate how to handle a not found 404 reason. So I'm going to click through and open up the page indexing report for this site. I'm going to go down and look at not found 404. We're going to click it. Now, usually you can tell by looking at these that, okay, that's not a real page. Maybe this is an old page that existed before and then it got changed. This page may have been unpublished. So basically what I do, a lot of times I can just tell by looking at it, but the best thing to do is just to double check. Maybe this should still be a page and I don't know why it's not there anymore. Then you would investigate and go to figure out, did the URL change of this page? Because sometimes that will happen where, for instance, if we looked at this and if this was the old URL for this camp, but then somebody updated it because the camp name changed, let's say, to be the new name, then this is essentially just an old URL. And when that happens, it's okay, to leave it either as a 404, just let it be a 404, or if it's a scenario where you know that the URL changed, and that in this instance, if this camp is still a real camp, it just has a different URL, then that's a case where you would want to redirect this old URL to the new place. And that's mainly because just in case another website somewhere on the web is linking to this URL, as long as it's it's still a camp, it just has a different name, you would benefit the user by redirecting it to the new camp because that's what they're expecting to see on the other end of it. Now, if it's something that just went away entirely, typically I just let it be a 404 because if it's something you don't offer anymore, then it doesn't make sense to redirect it somewhere that somebody is not expecting. If there's some other content on your site that's really closely related and it would make sense to a user to redirect a URL that's going to a 404, and if they arrived at the new place and it still made sense to them, then it's okay to put in a redirect. But a lot of times people, when they're working on SEO, will freak out about 404s being on a site. And yeah, you don't want 80% of your site to be 404s. That's an issue. But in the course of a website's life, there's going to be content that comes and goes. And so it's okay for content to disappear from your site if you no longer offer that thing, or it's not relevant anymore and you don't want it on your site any longer. It's okay to let things just be a 404 error. But that being said, it is good to check and make sure there's nothing wrong going on. So sometimes you'll see, like I have seen cases where there's an issue with WordPress permalinks in a particular plugin. And all of a sudden, just like an FAQ plugin, let's say, and it's a custom post type. And there's something wrong with the plugin or the permalinks, and none of the URLs are working. Well, if you saw like every one of your FAQ URLs was in this 404 report, then that would be kind of like an alert. Like, I need to check that out because maybe there's something wrong here. In this case, I'm seeing a lot of FAQ categories. And I know that this is because of a change in what the FAQ plugin was and where it was housed in the site. In these cases, we'll investigate when maybe we need to redirect this category to the new URL for the new category. So that's the kind of thing you want to look for in this 404 report. You want to look for anything that seems a little bit out of whack. Let me investigate it a little bit further. So in this case, I'll be looking to see if this category still exists as part of the FAQs. And if so, then we might redirect this URL to the new URL for it. But otherwise, don't panic. Just look for things that don't seem right. Like if you know, I should still have a COVID-19 safety measures page on my site. If you know that's the case, and then you might want to go look and see, well, why is it not there? It could have been unpublished. It could be that the URL changed, like somebody changed the name of the page and the URL changed with it, in which case you might need to redirect it. So basically, you just use it as a tool to help you determine what to do with it. So that's what you do to handle not found 404s. Okay, another common message that we get from Google Search Console as a reason for a page not being indexed is a page with redirects. So we're going to click through to this report and we're going to go down to page with redirect and we're going to click on it. And it's kind of the same thing where in most of these cases, really what we're doing is using this as an investigative tool to figure out why is this redirecting, should it be, and that sort of thing. So for instance, let's look at this summer camp, American Girls STEAM Camp. I'm going to do my first step that I most always do is click on this open in new tab. So I can see, well, what's going on at this page. I can see it redirected me to a page with a slightly different URL. You can see that the URL has the word American Doll Girls STEAM Camp. So it doesn't have the word doll in it. So this is a case where somebody updated this URL to include the word doll, I guess to make it more clear what the camp was about in the URL. So in this case, congratulations, great. That's what we want to be happening. Essentially just go through each of these and see if there's anything that seems wrong. This looks like in most cases, I just click through and make sure it's redirecting to the correct place. So I can see that that's going to the same page with a slightly different URL. So essentially that's what you do with these is just look for things that don't seem right. As long as they are going to a place that makes sense, then typically you're good. Here's another example where the summer camp URL is quadcopter. And if we click through, I can see that somebody added aerial robotics to the URL. And sometimes that happens because they're trying to make it more descriptive for SEO purposes, or you never really know sometimes why that happens. But as long as it's going to a page that makes sense, then that's fine. Okay, now I want to talk about two statuses that you might see in your page indexing report in Google Search Console. They are crawled, currently not indexed, and discovered, currently not indexed. Now, Google has never sent me an email saying that these are two reasons that your pages aren't being indexed, because they aren't really a reason that your pages aren't being indexed. They're more of a status where Google is letting you know, hey, we've crawled these pages or we have discovered these pages, but we just have not put them in the index yet. And there are different reasons why that happens. And I do think it's important to look at these, even though Google says when you see a status of crawled, currently not indexed, it says it was crawled, but it may or may not be indexed in the future. No need to resubmit this URL for crawling. Well, sometimes when it's a page that's super important to the site, I will resubmit it for crawling as long as I make sure everything's okay with it, because, I want it to show up. So I disregard this frequently, and I will resubmit pages to be indexed. Discovered, currently not indexed. This is another one where they know about the page, but it hasn't been crawled yet. And typically that's because of maybe the crawl was going to overload the server, so they rescheduled it for later. But again, sometimes when a page is super important, it's new, it's covering a new topic, something that I need to get out there in the world, I will request that a page that currently has this status be re-indexed after I make sure it's okay. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So we're in the page indexing report, and you can come down to, these are the two we're talking about mainly, the crawled, currently not indexed, and discovered, currently not indexed. A lot of these are WordPress specific URLs in this case. And I mean, we build every site on WordPress, so most of the time I'm talking about WordPress. So a lot of these are, I find, tend to be these feed URLs, which do not need to be indexed, and so that's fine. I just leave them alone. The tag URLs, which in our case, I don't really worry about tags and category pages too much, because a lot of times it's just a lot of duplicate content. Like everything that's in the Minecraft category is also in the video game category, and so those pages kind of end up looking exactly the same. So I don't really worry about if it is a feed, like if it ends in feed, if it's a tag. Typically, we might recommend you don't index the tag URLs, but sometimes it happens and Google routinely ignores them like this, which is fine. Camp categories, feed, like all these have feed. This is a location, so I might click on that and see, why is it not indexed? It looks like it does not have any camps assigned to it, and there's no description, so it's kind of almost like a soft 404, so I really wouldn't worry about that one. They just have it categorized here, but I think if they went through the trouble of indexing that page, that it would end up on the soft 404 list, because it really doesn't have any unique information. FAQ categories, those are not important. Here's a summer camp, so I'm going to click on this and see, is this a summer camp we have and use? So it is a legit summer camp. So in this case, they might not offer this summer camp this year. If I'm not offering any camps for it, I would probably just leave it here. I don't want to take up crawl budget having Google crawl and index pages that aren't important because we don't offer that camp right now, or things like that. But definitely, if this was a camp that had some sessions available, I would submit this to be re-indexed. And I'll just do that in this case, just to show you how to do it. So you click on it, click inspect first, then click test live URL. And I just always like to test the live page in case there's something wrong with the page that I can't see by just looking at it, that Google is going to pick up on. So we always test the live URL, and when it comes back and says, yep, it's available to us, we can index it, then all you have to do is click request indexing. And then it'll take some number of days before that request will get processed, but you can just go ahead and do it, and at some point they'll let you know if it was fixed or not. So here's an after-school program called Rainforest Rescue. So we're going to inspect that URL. And we're going to test the live URL. And because I know this is an after-school program that is currently offered, I'm going to ask Google to index it. Let's see if there are any other good examples here. PDFs, I do not worry about. If the content in a PDF is super important, it should probably be made into a page on the website. So it's fine if PDFs are not crawled. And here's another one that has that query string, which is where you see the question mark and then some words and things like that. We typically ignore those as well because they, in most cases, don't need to be indexed. It can depend on your specific website setup, but generally speaking, for the small businesses and local businesses we work with, there's not a lot of query strings going on. That's something you tend to see being more important in, say, an e-commerce site or something like that. So for most people, you can ignore. So in summary, your main takeaway is that when you get one of these new reasons preventing your pages from being indexed emails from Google Search Console, just remember that it's usually not an emergency. It's just Google giving you information. Your job is to, number one, don't panic, and then click through, look at the reasons, and determine whether that page should be indexed or not. And remember that sometimes it's totally fine for it not to be indexed. A lot of the time you're going to find things like duplicate pages, category or tag pages sometimes don't need to be indexed, old content, or redirects. And sometimes it's just content that it no longer belongs on your site, and it's totally okay for those things to be 404 errors. As long as your important pages are being indexed and showing up in Google, then you're doing what you need to be doing. So hopefully this gives you a clearer framework for how to handle these emails when they show up. Thanks for watching.